People of Reddit, what's the scariest thing that had happened to you online? When I was 15, my friends and I went into the deep web and downloaded some PDFs and videos about Python programming and another bullshit things that I can't remember. The files were all empty. The next day, my friend, we were using his computer, said his entire workspace had been deleted. 3 days later, he told us at school that everything on his computer came back, and on his desktop wallpaper, there was a message. We checked your whole computer. You seem like a nice guy just trying to learn Python. Here's the material. Be more careful when using the dark web. And all the missing files were placed on his desktop. What is the biggest red flag you ignored because they were hot? Met this woman shortly after I got divorced, absolute 10. We met for drinks and she asked if I'd ever been arrested. I laughed and said no, and I asked her and she laughed and said yes. I'm thinking something stupid. Nope, domestic violence. She had tried to throw boiling water on her ex. She was so hot that I didn't even flinch. We dated a few months and I came home one day and she had moved in. She acted like it was the greatest surprise and I didn't. When I didn't reciprocate, she lost her mind. She broke some stuff in my house, called me every name she could think of, started grabbing her stuff and left. I had to change my locks, garage code, phone number, etc. What's a harmless habit that people don't realize is actually damaging in the long run? People pleasing. If you are more concerned with making sure everyone around you is happy than you are about your own well-being, it will bite you in the ass. Eventually, you will start to resent people because you will feel that they don't put in as much effort as you do, when in reality, you are just doing too much. Take care of yourself, or you will not be able to truly care for others. Learn early how to set and maintain proper boundaries. What's a common myth about health, nutrition, or fitness that you've learned is actually false? Lifting weights to get bigger and stronger doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the most effective workout plans and routines are quite boring after a while. This idea that every session needs to be different or changed up for variety or target a very specific area of muscle growth is ultimately more trouble than it's worth. There's a reason 5x5 as a routine has been around forever. It's simple, boring, but effective. The hardest part is making it a consistent activity. What are you absolutely sure of but have no way of proving? Cryptocurrency is being used by nation-state actors and the likes of cartels to evade sanctions and launder money outside of the traditional banking system. Just like Tor, it was released to the public to create hype, noise, entropy, allowing the most shady users to hide in plain sight. I suspect one of the major coins was invented by someone nefarious for this very purpose. What was your biggest, I completely missed that they were dropping hints interaction? How did it work out for you, and if you know, for them? Went to a party at college. Saw a girl I went to high school with. Started catching up about the last 2 years. Hung out for a couple hours. We ended up on tattoos and piercings. I got a Jacob's ladder. She wanted to see it. We go upstairs to an empty room and I pull it out. She drops to her knees and really looks it over, like 2 inches away. Says, I wonder what it feels like. My dumb ass says, I don't know. Never been on the receiving end. And pull up my pants, and we go back down to the party. Elapsed time, 3 minutes. Years later, she tells me she was hinting as hard as she could. Americans of Reddit, what's the funniest thing a foreigner has said to you about America? I did an exchange trip to southern Germany when I was in high school, and one of the day trips was to go visit the local elementary school. So many kids asked us why we weren't fat and asked if all Americans really had guns. One kid asked if we all lived in NYC. They were really cute, but yeah, there was some hard stereotyping there. LOL. Likewise, my brother's exchange partner, also from Germany, saw all the squirrels around our house and went, ah, rats. What NSFW secret you can share? I was talking to 2 girls on an app, hitting it off with both. My area had a really bad thunderstorm, and I got a message from one saying their house was struck by lightning, caught fire, but everyone is okay. However, she's looking for a new place to live, so life is chaotic. I said, no problem, take your time. That is totally reasonable that relationships are put on the back burner for a little bit. Try to talk to the other one during this time. Get really short answers. A few days later, she apologized and said it has been a whirlwind because her sister's house was struck by lightning and she was helping her move. Well, what is a time you got seduced that you will never forget? She asked to borrow a shirt because she wanted to shower and didn't bring clothes. She came out of the shower carrying all of her clothes folded neatly with the panties on top, wearing on the white shirt I gave her. She didn't towel off. She was wet. The white shirt was wet. I was stunned. This was my buddy's little sister. She had just finished boot camp. I was in town for a football game. She saw my post on FB and asked if we could hang out after the game. So yeah, seduced by my close friend's sister, it was she perfect night. What's something innocent that feels 10 times more intimate than it should? Putting a Band-Aid on someone's scrape or burn, especially if you dab it gently clean and put some analgesic on the Band-Aid pad. It's not even necessarily romantically intimate. It can be something you do for your child or your sibling or your friend just as much as for your partner. But it's such a loving act that involves so much trust and vulnerability. What small action had the biggest consequence in history? Stanislav Petrov. In 1983, Petrov was on duty in a Soviet missile base when early warning systems apparently detected an incoming missile strike from the United States. Protocol dictated that the Soviets order a return strike. But Petrov didn't push the button. He reasoned that the number of missiles was too small to warrant a counterattack, thereby disobeying protocol. If he had ordered a strike, there's at least a reasonable chance hundreds of millions would have died. The US and the Soviet Union may have even ended up engaged in an all-out nuclear war, leading to billions of deaths and potentially the end of civilization. If we're being conservative, we might quantify his impact by saying he saved 1 billion lives. People who sleep naked, when has it ever backfired? Forgot to lock my front door. I lived in an apartment complex across the street from a bar. AC was on the fritz, so I slept naked and sheetless. Woke up to some lady screaming at me. Turns out she lived upstairs and was too drunk to realize she was on the wrong floor and just barged into my apartment, beelined to the bedroom, and turned on the lights. Once she stopped screaming and let me talk, she realized she was in the wrong place and left. I spent a bit winding down from whatever the heck that was and then went back to sleep. Later, she apologized to me and somehow it wasn't weird. We were reasonably amicable neighbors after that. What is an example of a real-life evil person that got what they deserved? I was waiting at a crosswalk once. The pedestrian sign told me to go. A guy making a right turn sped up to cut in front of me. I had to jump back to avoid getting hit. As the guy passed me, he pointed and laughed at me. It's really a shame that he was staring at me to mock me, because he definitely didn't see the cop waiting to exit the parking lot right next to me that he cut off. Me and the cop both made eye contact before I watched him flip on his lights and promptly pull the guy over. The cop did not look happy. I'm willing to bet that was an expensive ticket. What's something that men enjoy watching women do that's not NSFW? My wife gets insanely happy over the most trivial things. Yesterday, she was watching a documentary about Disney World and was giddy over the fact they were talking about the Haunted Mansion, her favorite ride. Watching her joy over it just makes me happy too. What's something you said that was so horribly misunderstood, it still haunts you to this day? I was in an indoor playground kind of place in Austin with my 2 young daughters, talking to a friend about skiing. I was telling her how my family had property near Taos, but I never went there to ski because most of the slopes were black diamond and beyond my skill level. My younger daughter escaped across the room, and as I chased her down, I called loudly to my friend. I just don't enjoy going. It's something like 60% black. People who do background checks. What are some NSFW or WTF things you've discovered that have disqualified a candidate for a job? Not in HR, but we Googled his name, and up comes his photo in a news story about him and his wife in a fraud court case. He interviewed great, but we knew he would never pass a background check after that search. Did not disqualified, but up popped her page for dominatrix services with her photo in a skimpy leather outfit with a whip. Interesting side gig. What's an unspoken social rule that absolutely everyone follows, but no one ever admits? You meet someone you know in the supermarket and briefly exchange pleasantries. They are pushing their trolley in the opposite direction to you, so you meet them again in the next aisle and have to say something really corny along the lines of, "Oh, not you again." You then have to abandon your trolley and leave the supermarket immediately to avoid any further interactions with them in the aisles or the checkouts. It is far better to come home without your shopping than bump into them a third time. What do you personally consider cheating and/or disloyal in a relationship that most people don't? Emotional availability to someone else. When you're venting to another person of the opposite sex about your relationship, seeking comfort or validation from them instead of your partner. That's crossing a line. Also, hiding things you know your partner wouldn't be okay with, even if it's not physical. If you gotta hide it, it's disloyal. And constantly entertaining the what if with other people. Whether it's through likes, flirty messages, or even jokes about being single. That mindset chips away at trust.